What's going on, B's and G's? In this video I'm going to explain to you how I overcame my fear of full loot PvP, specifically in corrupted dungeons, and how you can do the same. I'm going to show you the build that I was using. It's a very cheap build, just whilst I got more comfortable with the full loot PvP aspect of it. And then I'll start to show you some of the upgrades that I made as I progressed and got more comfortable. Towards the end I'm going to show you some of the loot that I saved up. I didn't save it all because I did sell some of it because I needed some silver to buy premium, but I'll show you some of the loot that I saved up and how I progressed. I'll show you some of the kills, some of the deaths, just so that you guys can start to feel a bit more comfortable with it yourself as well. So let's get into it. So this is my build, very cheap build, overall 65k, so not that expensive just to get going. It's basically a budget bloodletter build, so everything's for 1 gear, and as you can see the base average item power is 800. So that means you can get straight into the hunter level corrupted dungeons. Start practicing, and as you get your item power up to above 900 you can then get into the full PvP ones, which are the Stalker corrupted dungeons. So we're going to go with bloodletter, generally running second on the Q, first on the W, and then as you're doing the clear you're going to be using the second passive, which is life leech, just for a bit of sustainability, and then when you get into a fight you're going to be moving over to deep cuts. Mage cowl purely for the poison, extra bit of damage on there. First passive on there just to increase your damage. Cast times isn't really going to be an issue with bloodletter build. Cleric robe just for a bit of defensive, everlasting spirit or frost shield depending on which enemy you're coming up against, but I generally just tend to stick on everlasting spirit, and again first passive on there. Then we go with guardian boots for the giant passive, or the giant skill, sorry. I do sometimes put rejuvenating spirit on as I'm doing the clear, but I'll always swap to giant when I'm fighting, unless I'm coming up against the kiter, then I might just put the first skill on, and then toughness as your passive, and then we go for a torch just for the slight cooldown modifier and the attack speed bonus. The attack speed bonus along with deep cuts is just going to allow you to get that little bit of extra damage in sooner. Generally I'll then bring a beef stew, just one, eat it before you when you start doing your clear. Generally as I was getting more comfortable with it I would just go in, if I got a kill I would then go back to the bank my winnings, and then I've got some loot building up to replace any gear for when I do die. So just one beef stew, and then generally 1 or 2 healing potions. I did also bring some tier 4 poison potions with me as well, just to help along with the bosses, not for the PvP fights though. I would swap over to healing potion for any fights. As I started to get a bit more comfortable with the PvP fights and I'd built up a little bit of loot, so I was happy replacing some gear, I then started to make a couple of changes to my build. So my first upgrade was the Thetford cape. So the Thetford cape basically just deals a little bit of damage. It's got relatively short cooldown, so it can proc maybe 2 or 3 times for the duration of the fight, if it's, you know, quite a prolonged fight. The next one, I decided to get rid of my guardian boots and moved over to soldier boots, just so I could have wanderlust. I found that I was coming up against quite a few players who had much better mobility than I did, So I found that I wanted to be a bit more offensive than defensive. So having Wanderlust on just allowed me to have a bit more mobility and stay on top of the player as I was attacking them. So just being more aggressive. And then the final upgrade that I made was the Cultist Cowl, purely for the inner corruption. A lot of people don't realise this debuff that you put on them, so they will keep on spamming attacks on you and just damaging themselves. So if they're spamming their abilities, or you've got a say regular bow who's buffed up and he's firing arrows at you at a mad rate, you can pop this inner corruption on them, cleric robe up so you're not taking any damage, you're still attacking them, and then they're taking damage from the inner corruption as well. So it's just a really good burst damage build. It's not very good at sustain as such, because we've only got one defensive with the cleric robe. So it is a very aggressive and offensive build, but that's how I found that I enjoyed to play, and that really then worked for me. So that's my nice cheap bloodletter build with a couple of upgrades when you get a bit more comfortable if you want to have a go playing with bloodletter. What I'm going to do now is show you a couple of highlighted fights which I found either quite an interesting fight or some nice loot from it. Do continue watching though, because there's a guy which is quite stacked towards the end, where he was clearly very lost, but I managed to kill him and pick up all of his loot, none of it trashed. So sit back and enjoy. So this is the loot tab from the corrupted dungeons that I'd done. So I have taken the money bags out of here and used it. I've just topped my premium back up, so I've got over 30 days again, and that's why my silver is so low at the moment. I do have this tab to sell off though, and I do have another tab to sell off from doing solo dungeons, which is going to be a whole nother video. So yeah, this is some of the loot that I've gathered from doing both Hunter and Stalker corrupted dungeons. So total 1.16 mil. I think I used maybe about 400-500k's worth of money bags out of this tab as well. So that would have taken me to about 1.5-1.6 mil. So overall I've profited, and I feel like I've got a lot better at PvP. I'm a lot more comfortable going out into the black zone, going into the full loot PvP corrupted dungeons. I panic a lot less now, so I think I'm going to continue having a bit of a play around in corrupted dungeons in this build, and see what I can build up in a new loot tab. Like I said, this isn't all of it. You will see, or you will have seen a couple of the videos. I think I got a full tier 5 5.3 set from a guy who was clearly very lost, but it just goes to show how lucky you can be. So I've definitely profited over the entirety of doing corrupted dungeons. But if we're just looking at this loot tab, then yeah, I've kind of got my gear back in here. So B's and G's, that wraps that up for today. I am going to be dropping another video probably towards the end of next week. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more content. I'll catch you next time. Peace.